Welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a full walkthrough and review of Ango episodes 1 through 11, including the OVAs. Now, if you were with me from last night, I also did Ango episode 1, full walkthrough and review. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and again today, I'm going to keep my comment and my rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in, because I need to get these hands dirty. Dirty with the walkthrough and review. I don't know about you, but let's do it. We'll do our characters, the introduction of those for now. Shinjūrō Yūki, he is the main character, literally. He is a detective. I don't know where he got his license to be a detective. He just looks like a kid that walks up into any old scene. Again, he works side by side with the Joint Coordinating Department and the police, so that's kind of interesting. Don't know how though. I think it's by association with Rinryu mostly. His partner, however, is Inga. She's his assistant. That's all we know. And interesting thing about her, she is a god, but she has a demon-like appearance when she evolves. She's in a guy's body, but the thing is, when Inga evolves into a really attractive woman, which is what we actually want to see more of, but she doesn't have a lot of evolving. Now, when she does evolve, all she has to do is like hold someone or be in someone's presence and ask a question, and they can't lie. They have to answer her no matter what. Now we also find out that's also how she gets her power. That's how she feeds. That's how she's a god. When someone, you know, tells her the truth, or any type of truth, she like feeds on like these butterflies that come out of them. And I guess what we find out is each person in their souls, they scream when they tell the truth or something, and they go into her. So that's how she powers up. Kind of confusing really, because that really wasn't self-explained in the series, but it's different. But I digress. Let's move on. Like I said, the other character is Rinryu Kashu. Now, he is by far one of the most interesting characters in this series, who sits literally at home the whole time and has his daughter go out and do stuff as his proxy. But again, he is the chairman, like I said in the last episode, chairman of the JJ Systems, which holds a monopoly on the communication infrastructure and I think the technology and the power post-war reconstruction Tokyo. I hope I got that right. He's a pretty important guy. His nickname is the Media King. So again, he's not a detective. I thought I'd point that out, because I think last episode I said he was. It's because he appears to be, because he can solve all these different mysteries and whatnot, but he's not. He's an advisor for the government. Apparently a very influential one at that. Now again, he has a daughter. Her name's R.A.I, and she often brings cases to Shinryo, which is the main character, so that's how he gets his cases. Now, there's no love triangle here or any love connection between her and Shinryo, but you want to say there is, but there isn't. But you can see it's there somewhere toward the end of the series. You can see it in the last episode, I guarantee it, but they never kiss. There's none of that. So, same thing between Inga and the main character. Inga's evolved form is hooked, and apparently that's Shinryo's boss, by the way, is Inga's evolved form. Even though that's not really true. That's what he says whenever she evolves. But anyways, I digress. I'm sorry, I gotta keep moving forward here. Another character we're introduced to is Uzume Kayama. Again, I already talked about her in the last episode. She's a prosecutor for the public prosecutor's office and the Joint Coordinating Department. Again, all these titles are long, but they really mean nothing to me. There's so many departments. She's basically with the main character's not the main character in general, but she's R.A.I mostly. So Izume is mostly with R.A.I, kind of like a bodyguard per se. Then you also have Sigmi. I think I pronounced his name wrong. It starts with an S. It's Sigane Hayami. He is a back character, but also he plays a bigger role toward the end, so don't write him off just yet. He does have a big role. He basically is a well, not national in general, but a national police agent, part of the Security Bureau Section Chief. And he looks like a kid, but he's got a chief title. Kind of interesting. But you know, that's to be expected. I mean, who he's associated with in this series, so it's no wonder how he got his job. Now, another character I thought would have had more of a direct role was the maid that was at the residency of Rinryu. She was Kashu, or Kayashu. She was the maid. No real role. I'm sorry, I thought she might have had a bigger role because she was an attractive character. Not so much. Probably in the last episode. Yeah, she's just a downplayed character. Now, on to what I thought about this series, more of describing wise. Episode 1 through 4 is almost like Case Closed, except not a lot of cases were solved in that like the same way. It was kind of fast paced and rushed. And at the same time, I have to keep calling him Rinryu, but Rinryu, also known as the Media King. So from now on, I'm going to call him the Media King. You have the Media King. He was usually the last one on site you see because he's never there in person. He's always talking through a computer or by phone because he's the Media King. Again, he works for the government technically. And you see the main character, Shinryu. He's on the case. You know, he's solving it either by association to the Media King or he does it on his own. Usually by association with the Media King is how he starts his case. Now he has it all solved. And apparently the Media King already has it solved. But the thing is, once Shinryu solves the case, it's like, okay, it's solved. This is what happened. But then the Media King turns it around. He's like, well, if the truth were to get out about what actually happened, well, then our government could collapse, terrorism could sprout out. So he switches the truth. You know, it's a conspiracy. It literally is a conspiracy. But it's to safeguard the government, you know, so things don't get broken down. But you see that in the first 4 episodes. But by episode 5, that's where we get a little more information about Inga in general. How she, in exchange for Inga not murdering anyone, basically Shinryu gives Inga souls, people's truths. So that's basically the only closure we get on who the heck Inga is and why she's doing what she's doing. But I'll get into that more later on. Then we also get to episode 7. Episode 7 is where we're introduced to the novelist and Bitoon. The novelist is just a guy that's in prison. He writes novels. And you have Bitoon, which is another deity or god. She has the power to turn people's words into reality. So it's an interesting pair up. And again, he is one heck of a character. The novelist, second favorite, no, in fact, no, he is my favorite character next to the Media King. Yeah, I like this guy. But again, he is one of the villains in the series, so I'm not going to describe too much about him, but he pairs up with a deity / god. That's kind of interesting. And again, episode 7 to 8, I should say, is a WTF type of an episode, because you're watching episodes 1 through 4, and then enter 5, and it kind of looks like all normal episodes. By episode 7, it's like you're daydreaming. You're not, the character is someone else, the main character, Shinryu, is someone else. You know, he's on a film set, which really isn't there. He's in the prison, and toward the end of that episode, he's got a barcode on the back of his neck. You know, stuff is so distorted, it's a WTF moment, and I thought I was going to lose it after that, but it does get better, technically, after that. But again, we're introduced to at least 2 new villains, the novelist, and again, Bitoon. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but again, she is a god / deity, and she has the power to turn people's words into reality. That is an interesting power, and it really messes with this series later on. By episode 11, I'd have to say that's my favorite episode. I'm not going to describe too much about it, but you get to see the true colors of the Media King. And I have to say, well played, sir. Well played. That was my serious face. It was a well played episode. I think I'm going to watch it a second time after this, because you know what? I loved it. Favorite episode. Not really much between episode 7 and 11 that would mess up this series, because it was pretty much down keyed after that. We find out there's 2 organizations. One's called the Diet, another one's called the Full Circle. Now the Full Circle is like an underground pirate media group. They put the truth that's on the web that the government blocks out, so that's what they are. Now the Diet is like a political organization that's not directly linked to the government, but they're in good with the citizens, you know, so they're not a syndicate or anything. They're like an actual organization that's legal. They get the testimony of people that are about to go on trial, or not just on trial, but people that need to get stuff written down on paper, like their testament, their testimonies. That's kind of interesting. I don't know a lot about who Diet really is because it really wasn't self-explained, but just the small bits we get to see toward the end. And they screwed the pooch a lot. They got played. That's all I can say. They got played. But again, watch episode 11. You know what I'm talking about. I liked it. Now, again, throughout this series, we see the main character solving cases, and they're always, generally, he solves them, but again, the Media King already has them solved. He's just trying to put a conspiracy together so the government doesn't collapse. So it's hard to say if the Media King's good or bad. Right now, I'm just saying he's got good intentions. We're going with that. Okay? Now, as for the OVAs, it just describes a lot about Shinryo's background, okay? Because we find out that Inga's body is from a girl who saved... Well, technically, the girl didn't save Shinryo, but she was in love, per se, with Shinryo, but we don't really get to see that. But I mean, they shared a bed together without sleeping together. It looks like she had feelings toward the main character, but again, Inga's body is from that girl. We find that out. We actually see it in the OVAs. The girl's name is Yuko, and she was part of the Sing on the Battle. I think it's a band. That's what I'm going to go with. And they were called an NPO. They were NPO volunteers. And I seriously don't know a lot about them in general because they didn't have a full... Like, episodes 1 was the best you could see out of what they were. And it's like from episode 1, at the beginning, that's where the OVA kind of starts. Like, before the series starts, that's where it's at. And again, the main character looks more mature in the OVAs, even though this is... It's like the time setting's just before the series starts. Kind of weird. But it progresses like it's in the middle of the series or something, because he confronts one of the members that was part of the Sing on the Battle group that presumably were already dead. Because we saw all those dead bodies in episode 1 just for that brief few seconds. It looked like they were all dead, and you saw Yuko, who was like reaching out, and you hear the main character, "Am I dead?" And then you hear Inga say, "Yeah, you're dead." Well, am I alive? No, you're dead. No, you're not alive. But anyways, apparently we see the main character, Shinryo, more of his background. He was a swimmer when he was in high school. Then after high school, he was showing films to people. He was like a filmographer, I guess. He like put films on these old-fashioned reels, and he showed them to people, and it was good to a point until, you know, the money stopped and he had to sell his film crap. And then he met the group Sing on the Battle, and one of his friends, Sandri, or I believe that's how you pronounce his name, started with an S. His friend Sandri was also in the swimming team. He graduated from college, became a travel agent of some sort, and then, now this is what we find out later on in the OVAs, he started working for the police. So he was part of the SP. So that's kind of interesting. I believe it was called the SP. I hope I get that right. The Special Police or Security Police. Security Police Task Force, I believe is what they were called. But anyways, they're in this little crummy van, and this is where we saw in episode 1 where apparently they walked into a trap against the terrorists, I guess, or a different organization that was in the mountains, and they didn't die. Actually, everyone's alive that was on the ground. The van wasn't flipped yet. You see the main character Shinryo pull everyone out, and he saves everyone, but at the last moment the van explodes, and Shinryo actually died. He did die. He had like a piece of rock straight through his throat, so he's dead. Now, what's even more unique is he's been brought back to life by Inga. Now she's possessed his body, and she's going all berserk with all of his friends, taking their soul technically, like asking them questions and taking that little scream and power that's inside of them, and they died instantly. Now, just when he gets to Yuko decides she doesn't want to know the truth about of everything. Instead of, you know, being sucked up by Inga, she does suicide, and this kind of affects the main character, but apparently Inga takes her power out of Shinryo and goes inside of Yuko, but she was too late. She couldn't save her. Now again, when Inga jumps inside someone's body, she can heal them up if they're about to die, so that's how the main character got back to life. Now, this kind of hurt the main character's ego, and he made a deal with Inga. You can't kill anyone yet. You can't kill anyone else. No more killing. I'm gonna give you as much souls as you want, but you can't kill anyone. That's a deal. You know, that's why she asks questions, and you see people being drained of their soul power, like the soul they have, but they're not dying. So it's kind of interesting. It's always in the form of butterflies. Now in the OVAs, we see Batoon actually show up more. And I should say before I describe more of that, Inga and Shinryo, they made a pact in general. Their pact, that other than she wasn't going to kill, was she'd stay by his side as long as he could produce the souls for her. That was the catch. Again, they became even more closer, a lot closer, but the thing is, they used, I should say Inga, she used Yoko's body. So that's why he wanted to stay close to her, because he was in love with Yoko. That's the general assumption I'm going with. And also, Inga is in a boy's body. I hope I point that out. It's Yoko's body, but it didn't suit Shinryo to see Yoko's body like that, so he tells Inga, change your form. So she picks a little boy. But when she evolves, she turns into a beautiful woman, so that's kind of interesting. But that's where we're at with Inga. Now when we go to describe more of the characters that were in this supposed band called Sing on the Battle, we had Syndria, Yuko, Shinryo really wasn't part of the band, he was just a walk-on. And then you have a guy called Ono Mushin. Now, technically when they were attacked, they all died. The only people that were left was, you know, Shinryo, and he took out everyone else. And then you had Yoko, which has been possessed. And apparently they couldn't find Shinryo's friend, Syndra. So you find out later on in the series that he's actually alive, and he's the villain in the OVAs. But that was off the bat, you already knew who it was. Now, Ono Mushin, he's dead. So we don't know who this guy is that's impersonating him in the OVAs. Now, I'm not going to spoil it any more than I already have, but all we do know is that Oni Mushin is part of an occult. Now in the anime series we find a little flashback of him being in a cult which used Batoon, which was a god deity, the power to turn people's words into reality, that god and deity. That's how his occult functioned, so he's able to deceive people to do what he wanted and change reality around him. And apparently in the OVAs we get to see that all over again. But I don't want to spoil too much, but that's what the OVA was generally about. So I hope that actually helped if you need to know more about the main character Shinryo, because the OVA pretty much is his background story, other than episode 1 and episode 5. See, throughout the anime series, we assume he's with the frickin' army. That was his past, he was with the army or something like that. But that wasn't the case. But it was weird, because he had this one episode where he's facing like a general of the army or something, and they're having a statue put up. I'd assume because of what he was saying and talking about and why he was invited, he was probably part of a terrorist group or the militia or something. No, he's not. Literally, this kid, Shinryo, is not affiliated with the army at all. Military or police. No affiliation. But that's kind of interesting. I should also point out at the end of the OVAs, we find out he does get to meet the Media King. And this is where his identity is switched around to Shinjūrō Yūki. He's been given a different identification because his birth name is now linked to the terrorism plot that he uncovered. So his name's been soiled, even though he did it with good intentions. And that's how he's linked in this circle with the Media King. And this is generally why the OVA should have started first. I should tell you, if you're watching this series, start with the OVAs first. But at the same time, I don't want to wreck it. Just watch episodes 1 through 11 and then go to the OVAs. It's kind of hard to say which one's better, because in reality the best episode is episode 11 and then the OVAs. Those were your 2 episodes that were worth watching. Moving on to my final thoughts. What were they thinking when they created this anime series, making it 11 episodes in an OVA? They could have done so much better after episodes 4 and 5. They could have expanded that out by like 12 to 14 episodes of doing cases. That would have been a lot more smarter. But, you know, they didn't, and they screwed up there. But again, episode 11 was the best, well plot out, so definitely plus in my book. This is what saved my rating when I was rating this. Now, as for the OVAs, it was better than the anime series to a point, even though it was only 48 minutes long. So that's where I was at there. We didn't get to know a lot about Inga's background or Batoon or the novelist. Surprisingly, I thought the novelist was going to have more of a general role. Sadly, not the case. Not so much background on Shinjūrō Yūki either, other than the OVA and part of the 1st and 5th episode. I was hoping for more, to be honest. Also, there was no love triangles or romance really light in this series, but you saw it there with R.A.I. R.A.I was actually riding horses in this series, you know, doing a lot with the main character, but they don't go on dates, that's not there. So it's not a romance series. This is strictly cases, mysteries, that's about it. Now, moving on from my final thoughts, because it was pretty short there. Rating wise, I'm going to be generous, but I'm not going to be as generous as I was with the first episode. I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5 because it really is not what I expected. This is not like the anime series Case Closed, so that's my bad. It is not. Definitely not like Case Closed, because it's not, you know, case by case. No, because in Case Closed, that anime series, in one episode, you actually are focused on the case and no one else is getting that kind of credit. It's based around one character helping, you know, someone else solve the mystery and, you know, actually have clues, and it's more hardcore into detective type, like a detective series, you know, like a Sherlock Holmes series. Now, Ongo is more along the lines of a conspiracy within a conspiracy, and it doesn't really screw you up. It's just eventually it gets to you because episode, you know, 5 comes along and it really messes your whole series up in general. But you know, episode 11 saves you. So I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5, not a 4, a 3.5. I feel comfortable. 3.5 out of 5. So that's what I'm going to rate Ongo. 3.5 out of 5. That ends it for my walkthrough and review of Ongo, episodes 1 through 11, and the OVAs. Definitely stay tuned later on today or tomorrow morning. I might do another walkthrough and review. For Thursday, stay tuned for Naruto Shippuden. Can't wait for that. That ends it for today. Before I go, gotta say it. Can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.